Let's kind of jump in here. The first thing we wanted to talk about was the Boston Celtics. The Boston Celtics offense thus far this season has been just an absolute mess. They're sitting at a 99.3 offensive rating. That's second to last in the NBA. And the way that we're going to look at all of these things is kind of through the perspective of, okay, we're somewhere between 2 and 4 games into the season. Is this going to hold up, or is this not going to hold up? Is this something that is sustainable over the course of the regular season, or is it something that is going to fail over the course of the regular season? So Boston, they struggled a little bit offensively last year. I think a little bit more than what people think. They finished basically at the end of the middle third of the NBA. I think they were like 17th in offensive rating, 18th in offensive rating last season. So this was not an offensive juggernaut last year. And through the opening 4 games that they've played so far this year, it really hasn't been much better.
No, not at all. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that obviously they're reintegrating Gordon Hayward into the offense. They do have somewhat of a responsibility when it comes to getting Jason Tatum more touches. That's not something that they did in last year's regular season, if we're being totally honest. And you and I have both mentioned it. Kyrie Irving is, let's be nice about it, he's not in the flow of things right now. He looks slow. And when you combine those things, it just looks like a lot of the gears are grinding in the Celtics offense.
Yeah, I think that's right. Kyrie doesn't seem to be, I don't want to say he's like not in the best shape, but like he looks to be, doesn't look to have the same burst that he typically does with the ball in his hands. And a lot of the misdirection moves, a lot of the crossover moves, a lot of the things that he is so adept at bringing to the table, they are somewhat reliant on him having the kind of burst that he needs necessary. I also want to bring up the fact that this is a team that's taking just a ton of mid-range jumpers right now. Like they're 7th in the NBA in percentage of shots coming from the mid-range at 21.7% of their shots coming from that range. Most of what you see them in, like if you're taking mid-range shots, obviously, those shots have to be coming out of somewhere as well. And in Boston's case, what you're seeing is that they seem to be coming out from the restricted area shots, right? Mm-hmm. Like the fact that they're only taking 27 restricted area shots a game is not great. It's just not enough for what they need for a flowy offense that has actual efficiency on the floor. They're 25th right now in terms of percentage of shots that they're getting in the restricted area. So part of that is obviously the increased pace. We're going to get to that in a second. Boston doesn't necessarily play at some breakneck pace like the Pelicans are. That's going to lead to fewer shots in the restricted area. They're 24th right now in pace at 99.5 possessions per 48 minutes. But what do you think about this offense's success or failure in general? Do we just assume that this is going to revert back once things start to get a little bit more into the season and once Kyrie starts to play himself into better playing condition, or should this be kind of a cause for concern?
There's a little bit of a cause for concern because I think the expectations of what the ceiling for this Celtics offense were probably a bit aggressive. But at the same time, when you're not getting restricted area shots, it's not like those are Al Horford shots. Those are Kyrie penetration dribble shots, him getting to the rim, him driving and dishing. I would venture to say, I haven't looked into these numbers, that most of the restricted area shots are coming from Terry Rozier. I also think that one, you have Jason Tatum spending a lot of time this offseason with Kobe Bryant. Listen, like it's not a conspiracy theory or anything, but you're going to take a lot of mid-range. Like you're going to take a lot of mid-range shots when you spend time with the mid-range maestro and Kobe Bryant. Like he doesn't teach the James Harden, 3 and at the hoop system. He's not into Daryl Morey ball. Beyond that, I think that there's a certain level of everybody else lowering themselves to a certain degree so that Gordon Hayward can feel more comfortable. Like I honestly think that because Hayward isn't operating at 100%, everybody else is kind of taking their foot off of the accelerator to a certain extent. This would be a concern to me, honestly, if the Celtics defense wasn't good. But they're playing at a really slow pace. That is going to increase. It will increase because of the factors that you've mentioned, Kyrie getting healthier, Hayward getting healthier. them finding a bit more flow because they just don't have the dribble penetration, in my opinion, right now. But they have a 97 defensive rating, and that's what they're going to win on. They will win on defense. They are not going to have, if they get into the top 10 in offense, that's good. But they were never going to be a top 5 offensive team. They just don't have all of those pieces yet, despite how deep they are and how talented they are.
Yeah, I'll say this. I think a lot of it is just kind of bad luck. I mean,
that's a factor too. It's not that many games.
Yeah, like whenever you don't take a lot of shots in the restricted area, your field goal percentage is just generally going to be a little bit lower than what other teams' field goal percentages are. But the fact that they're shooting 41% right now, that's not going to hold over the long course of the season. The fact that they're shooting 31% right now from 3, that's not going to hold over the long course of a season. So I'm not real worried about this at all. I think that once Kyrie starts to get back, I think that once Tatum starts to continue to play a little bit more within the flow of the offense.
And that's the big thing for me. Like, what is Tatum's role in this offense? Because right now it looks like the entire offense revolves around Jason Tatum, and that's simply not how they were successful last year. Yes, there's a responsibility to get him more touches, but it doesn't seem very flowy right now. It seems like there's a lot of ISO. I would only be concerned if Kyrie Irving goes off and has a really big game and he's doing all those Kyrie things. He's pulling up, from deep 3, he's getting to the rim, he's finishing, he's that backboard maestro. If he has a game like that, and so now we see, okay, he's back, and the Celtics are still at this level, if it still looks like there's no grease on those gears, then I'll start to get concerned. But until then, like, it's early in the season. There's a lot of mitigating factors. They weren't supposed to be like elite anyway. It's not good, but it's not something to write off the Celtics with.
Yeah, and like Gordon Hayward is still figuring things out. His jump shot seems to be getting a little bit better as he
knows when to release it now.
More, yeah. The first couple games he played were very bizarre in terms of like when his shot was getting released. He's now up at 45% from 3. He's really the only guy on this roster, other than I believe Terry Rozier, that is shooting 3s at like an above average clip. Maybe Aaron Baines. I think Aaron Baines is like at 40%, but Baines is only taking like 2 attempts a game.
Is that something you desire?
Aaron Baines shooting 3s? Yes.
I mean, listen, it is strange. I understand that that Brad Stevens has done it. I still don't like that Baines Horford lineup where they use Baines as a floor spacer and a 5 out. It's really weird. Like, that's a reason there are certain lineups though where you kind of have to do it. Like against Philly, you kind of have to, just because you want Baines guarding Embiid, you want Horford guarding Simmons. So that's kind of the best way to beat Philly for them. Right. I would be surprised to see that, over the course of a large sample, that they play that lineup regularly. I'm interested to see how the lineups develop too, because obviously the Celtics have such great bench players that they could really get into some interesting second units and some staggering options that could unlock some stuff. Because that's the other thing too, beginning of a season, usually offense drags a little bit, just because guys are getting back into the rhythm of stuff. This is an extreme example of that. But once it starts, I have a hard time seeing it really stop. And until they're 10, 15 games into the season, like I don't see any reason to panic. I can explain this one away. There's some teams that it's pretty difficult to explain, and those are the teams you need to worry about.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm not real worried about Boston.